Welcome, welcome, Gina Strole here. I'm excited that you're here and I'm excited to talk about fears today. Fears is something that we can all relate with, we have all experienced, and the big hot sauce is how to work through them. And I love working with people in fears. To me today, when I have a fear come up, I know it's because it's what I need to be doing. And those fears come up because it's time to heal it. And those fears come up because I need to push through them. But the old me, when those came up, I was like, oh, we're going to fail. We're not going to do it. Especially when you start creating a business or going out on your own or doing new things, these fears are always going to come up. So what do you do with them? How do you deal with all of these fears in your life? I've went through periods of time just this last year for me. We had lots of changes coming. We had lots of things happen inside of our family, and there were a lot of things going on, and I had a lot of fear come up. And I spent a lot of time sitting in those fearful places. And I look back on it now, and I don't regret sitting in that fear for a while. It was really an opportunity for me to do some deep healing. And to me, that's what fears are the best for, because if we use them right, they're an opportunity to do some really, really deep healing. Because our fears are simply belief systems and things that we have created. A lot of it is inner child healing. A lot of it is our growing up stuff, just the garbage that we've carried, that we've built up, and it's ready to come out. And if we use it in the right way, we can use it as a healing tool. If we get scared and we back into the corner and we're too afraid to come out and face it, that's when we get ourselves into a little bit of trouble. And it's not even trouble, it's just part of the process. Sometimes it takes us longer to be willing to look at those fears and those issues. And there's nothing wrong with any of it. However you do it is perfect for you, but it's just really learning to see fears for what they truly are. Now, our fears aren't really real, but yet they are. We've all been told that way. Your fears are just there. They're not just real. They're your thought process. They are that, but they feel real inside of our body. And so as we experience them, we can go through periods, you've heard of stop, you either freeze or you go crazy, you start overthinking, overdoing, you can freeze up and do nothing, depending on how you deal with stress in your life. As these fears come up for you, it's really learning to stop and reassess them, reevaluate them, see what they are, see what's true for you today and what's not. What can you let go of? Is there anything that is truth in what you're feeling or going through, or is it ready for it to all be released? But, we really have to understand that these fears, they're really ego-based. They are ego-based fears to keep us small. And when we start branching out and do any type of healing work, we start making changes in our world, that all these fears are going to come out like yesterday's ugly pimple. And they're going to rear their ugly head as an opportunity for us to look at them. Anytime you try to do something new, they will come up. You will have these fears. You will have these insecurities. It's really interesting. Some of us are afraid of success, and we get scared and we hold ourselves back because what happens if we succeed? What happens if people see us and we're actually doing well? Or, we're making more money, or we're doing all these things. What will people think? Are they going to think we're selfish? Are they going to think, whatever it is, we can have fears of success. We can have fears of failure. We can have, fears of people leaving us, abandonment, fears of not having enough, fears of scarcity. There's so many fears that can come up that it's really learning to see them for what they are, because they are not your truth. They are simply there for you to look at. So I like to talk about transcending our fears. I love Wayne Dyer, and I love when he talks about, really working with our fears and transcending them. And this has been a big thing for me lately because, growing my business, it's grown really by leaps and bounds in the last year and a half or so. And I've been scared at times. I'm like, what am I doing? And I've really had to learn to really look at it as an opportunity for healing and growth. Anything that we do in life is an opportunity for healing and growth. If it's just doing your own healing work, there's your opportunity for healing and growth. If we decide to, start our own business, do something different, get a new job, it's all an opportunity to level up. And so if we can look at it from that point of view, there's nothing bad about any of these beliefs or these feelings or these fears. It's just an opportunity for healing. And so as we go through this journey and we uncover all of these fears, some of these fears, like I said, for me, I feel fear of success was huge. What would people think, especially being successful in a healing business? That's just not normal. You can't make money doing that. You can't, who are you to step in and tell people how to live their lives? I've had to realize, yeah, I can do that. I will do that. I am here. It is a blessing in people's lives for what I do because it helps them move through their stuff. But I haven't always been that way. I haven't always been in that place because I've had to learn to work through my fears and work through my belief systems and work through that ego so that I can become this person that sits here in front of you today. And I believe that it doesn't ever end. I will continue to do that work forevermore. And because that's part of my journey. Every time we level up, every time we do something different, these fears are going to creep in. So they are definitely part of your discovery, the discovery of yourself. So ego definitely equals fear. So that ego human part of you is where these fears reside. This is the part of you that wants yourself to feel like you are separate from everybody else, that you are different, that you are not connected to any of them, that your problems are your own problems. I remember as a woman, when you first get your period, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one that went through this, but I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I'm so alone in all of this, and we can't tell anybody, because that was my mom didn't ever talk about that. It was nothing we talked about. We weren't allowed to talk about it. And it just felt like I was alone. And then you find out, oh my gosh, everybody has a period. And it's kind of the same way with these fears and with the healing processes. We've all got these fears, but this ego wants us to think that we are alone in it and that we have to just suffer through it, and that we can't reach out and connect with other people to help us work through it. So we can choose to stay in that ego part. And this ego, to me, I've heard people talk about, let me be really clear on ego, because I have a different point of view than a lot of people do have with ego. Because of my growth and my learning, I have learned a different way to be with ego. And I honestly believe in connecting in with our ego. And when we have fears and things come up, I literally ask my ego, what's up? Okay, great. I can see we are scared. We are shaken in our boots. What is up? And I have a chat with her and I connect with her. And that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, and I teach people how to do this. I teach people how to connect with their ego. If you've ever taken any class with me, I promise you we will discuss ego, because I think it is so important. I hear about ego death. I don't really believe in an ego death. As long as you're alive and you're human, you're going to have this ego side of you. And so if we can learn to embrace it, learn to see it as a way of healing for ourselves, then we can understand that this is part of our being here. This is part of, our experience here in the human world. We will always have that ego side. There's going to be jealousies that come in. There's going to be fears that come in. This is part of your human experience. And it's really learning to embrace them and unpack them. So I like to talk to my ego, just like I talk to my inner child, just like I talk to any of you. And I will ask her, what's up? Hey, ego Gina, what's up? I have named her. Her name is Lucy, and I have named her so that I talk to her just like a person, and I will ask her, what's up? What are you afraid of? And let's get to the root of it. And usually just by acknowledging her, well, why wouldn't we be afraid? We're starting a new project. We're, doing this healing work. We're letting go of these why wouldn't we be afraid? And as soon as you give it that validation, give yourself that validation, it's almost like, you're right. We take out the badness of all of it so that we can see it for what it is. Because I don't label anything as good or bad. There's nothing good or bad. We don't need labels for things. There's no emotions. There's no feelings. There's no beliefs. They're not good or bad. They just are. And so when we can see things that way and understand, even as your fears come up, there's nothing good or bad. We just don't need them standing in our way of our progression. And the way that I have learned to get through them is just acknowledge them. Okay, great. You're scared that things are going to go well. And then what are you going to do? Well, you're not going to have enough time. You're not going to have, whatever. Your family is going to disown you. They're going to be mad at you. I had a belief for a while that I couldn't have a family life and have a business too. That was huge for me. And I had to unpack that and realize, because I kept holding myself back. Nope, I can't do that. I can't add not one more thing to my plate. I couldn't do that. Then my family would be upset with me. And I really have had to learn to understand that I can do both. I just need to create time and space for both of them. And I can be successful at both. I had this belief somehow too that if I created a successful business, I couldn't have a successful home life. And that's not true either, because I'm doing both of them. I feel pretty dang good about both of them. And, I have adult children. So one thing I've been working on this year is making sure that I have time to connect with them, because we do get busy. And I don't want to take away that time. I want them to know that I can talk with them, and they know that I do healing sessions and stuff, but there are times I can create those boundaries and still have those connections with them. So none of these things were true, but I had to unpack them all to see what they were. And it's the same thing with you. We really have to just unpack them and see what's going on. So when you have feelings of unworthiness come up, when you start getting in this fearful place, you start worrying about money, you start overthinking it, take a step back and ask your ego, what is up? Hey, babe, what's going on? And really, you can journal about it. I love journaling about it. Sometimes I just go for a walk and I talk to myself, kind of talk myself down off the ledge, so to speak. You can ask your guides for help. You can bring in other people. When we're having a lot of fears, it's a perfect time to do a healing session. And I say this all the time. You can connect with someone. They can help you work through all of these things. It is really life-changing to allow someone to come in and help you do that. I can't talk enough about intuitive healing sessions. So, if you're having feelings of not being worthy of love, or, you're afraid of relationships, whatever it is, we can work through all of those. So, but you got to be open to have a conversation. And the other thing that I teach about ego is, after I have this conversation, I assure her that we're in this together. We're doing this work together, and that I need her to be with me on my journey. I need my ego. There are some things I really need my ego for. She gives me courage. She gives me strength, but I don't need her fears holding me back. And we need to do this together. So I always encourage her. I always invite her to come up to that next level. And a lot of times my fears come out when I am doing a lot of healing work and I'm really working on getting to that next level. And I mean that kind of symbolically, but as we do our healing work, I see it as like leveling up, kind of climbing up the mountain, so to speak. And I just invite her to come and go along with me. And it's funny, usually that takes away a lot of that fear. There's really that fear of being left behind for her. And so as you can invite her to come along the journey with you, she doesn't always need to drive. Sometimes she needs to get in the back seat and shut up. But you can invite her to come along with you and enjoy the ride and the view. Put her in the car. Let's do this. Let's go for this next level. Let's see what this can be for us. Because what we believed back then isn't true for us today. And we're just moving through it. We're just changing little by little. So invite her to come along with you. This ego, these fears we're having, they're all part of our journey here. To simplify it down is, our fears equal the unconditional love. It really is that ego part of us. And as we step out of that, we step into the unconditional love side of life. And that's where we want to be. We want to learn to be in that place of unconditional love, those feelings of safety and security, these feelings that are totally different from being in that fearful space. And that's where I strive to be more and more every day. We get to choose. You can be in fear, you can be in love, and you get to choose which side you want to be in. Now, most of us go back and forth inside of that area, and that's perfect. That's how it is. But it's learning to spend more time over here in love, in the unconditional love, because there is a different types of love, and we will cover that in a podcast. But there is different sides of that, but we can really choose to be less in fear and more in that love energy, because that's where we want to stay. That's where we thrive. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for joining me today. I'd love to hear your comments. I'd love to have you share with someone who you think might enjoy this. So have a fabulous day, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.